the meeting to order and call for approval of the minutes of the June meeting.
I make a motion, we accept the minutes.
Second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. All right. Excused for tonight's meeting are PJ Keeler, Kevin Robert, Dale Winfelder, Michael Daly, and Steve Rinaldi. In addition, Tim Marable, Executive Director, regrets he could not be here, but he was with us earlier this evening for the Executive Committee report, and will report on his behalf. We have several items of correspondence, all which are in hard copy if anybody would like to review them. They're listed on the agenda for tonight. They have to do with the Providence Ambulance Corps being advised that their operating certificate had expired, and then a later letter from the Bureau of EMS to the Providence Ambulance Corps advising that their plan of correction was accepted. Subsequently, we have a letter to Hoosick Valley Rescue Squad advising that their plan of correction was reviewed and accepted. A letter to the Times Union Center EMS advising that their full service inspection identified missing policies, and that there was a request for a statement of deficiencies to be responded to by September 20th. And lastly, Argyle Emergency Squad was advised that their plan of correction submitted to the agency had been reviewed and accepted by DOH. If anybody would like to see the letters, we've got them right up here. We've got some course information for people's information that is printed on the front of the agenda. We have one that was approved by an email vote that tonight we need to read into the record for approval. It was a course sponsorship renewal that was approved by Remsco by an email vote on July 1st, 2013. It was for Momentum Performance in Waterford, and it was approved by a vote of 21 yes and 0 no's. All right, and there's a list of all the courses going on. In addition, I know that Remo's working on another EMT class, an evening EMT class that was temporarily postponed during lack of enrollment that is hopefully going to be done this fall, and the possibility of an EMT class. So we'll start, I guess, with the CON committee, and Jim's got some business before us for tonight.
Yeah, the CON committee has been a little active. We were in receipt of an application by the Village of Green Island for conversion of their municipal operating certificate to permanent. And in the matter of this fact, there was a public hearing conducted here on Friday, September 27th. And the CON committee has voted to accept the recommendation of the hearing officer. That is the hearing officer's recommendation that the application be made by Green Island to convert its municipal certificate of need to a permanent operating certificate be approved. The C1 committee voted to accept that recommendation and bring it to the floor tonight as a motion to go ahead and accept the recommendation of the hearing officer to make their certificate permanent. So we'll need to bring that to a vote, I believe.
So we have a motion on the floor, and for the record, the findings of fact from the hearing officer, Terrence Hannigan, dated September 27th, 2013. Findings of fact: the application was timely submitted and satisfied the criteria for technical review and objective evaluation as required by the New York State Department of Health. 2, proper notice of public hearing was provided, and there were no procedural objections to conducting the public hearing. 3, the application contained letters of support and attestations that public need exists for the services provided by the applicant. 4, there was neither testimony nor documentary evidence offered at the public hearing in opposition to the application. The application demonstrated that the applicant has met and exceeded appropriate training, safety, and equipment standards. 5, pursuant to the New York State DOH Policy Statement 0901, REMO must render a determination of public need pursuant to Public Health Law 3008 in order to convert the 2-year municipal declaration to a permanent operating authority. 6, pursuant to Public Health Law 3077B and the matter of the City of Utica versus Danes, the law confers a strong presumption in favor of approving the application so long as the applicant meets or exceeds appropriate training, safety, and equipment standards. No evidence was offered to rebut the strong presumption in favor of the application. 7, the applicant has demonstrated that it provides competent services to the Village of Green Island and has satisfied the criteria for public needs set forth in DOH Policy Statement 080606. Therefore, the recommendation is of the hearing officer that the application made by the Village of Green Island to convert its municipal CON of need, certificate of need the permanent operating certificate be approved. So that's what the vote will be to approve the conversion. We have a motion on the floor and a second as well from the committee meeting. So is there any discussion? Okay, this is a roll call vote, so we'll call the roll. Les Fremantle.
In favor.
William Price. Jim Reagan.
In favor.
PJ Keeler. Jeannie Scotty.
In favor.
Michael Potter. David Patini.
In favor.
Aidan O'Connor.
In favor.
Phil Myers.
In favor.
James Dorroyd.
In favor.
Kathleen Allen.
In favor.
Kevin Robert, not present. Rich Ruther.
In favor.
Nash Alexander.
In favor.
Dale Wingenfelter. James Venna. I think not present. Chris Kehoe.
In favor.
Michael Daly is not present. Al Jagoda.
In favor.
Steve Rinaldi, not present. Richard Brandt.
I have a conflict of interest and have to abstain in the matter.
Jim Stairs.
In favor.
Skip.
In favor.
Win Kane.
In favor.
Zureda Pinanero.
In favor.
Steve Retzloff.
Conflict of interest, I abstain.
Jeff Williams.
In favor.
Anne Marie Cross.
In favor.
Okay. As chair, I'll abstain, and the vote is 18 in favor and 0 opposed with 2 abstentions. And the motion carries. Thank you. All right, Jim, I think we have a second CON matter.
The Pleasantdale Fire Department requesting certification as a BLS first response agency. And the state has requested that to come before our CON committee for a cursory review, which we did. I believe there's some comments on it. We'll need, Mr. Retzloff will have there.
Yeah, just for the record, we reviewed the application and as requested by the state. And we did find that any first responder agency must have a signed transportation document by a certified agency in their territory. They did have one, however, actually they submitted 2, and one that they submitted was outside their territory that was not, they don't hold a license for it. So we recommended that a letter accompany the approval from this committee to just make them aware of the fact that they need to call a licensed agency within their territory when they require transportation.
Thank you. So the executive director will, if this CON application is approved, send a reminder to the agency that notwithstanding who their letters of support for their application were, that transports must be done by an agency that holds the operating authority. So this comes down again from the from the CON committee as a seconded motion. Is there any discussion on the vote for approval on the BLS first response application for the Pleasantdale Fire Department?
That letter also needs to go to the Bureau of EMS.
So,
As well as the
thank
agency.
you, so noted, okay. All right, then this one can be done by, does not have to be a roll call vote as it is a first response. So all those in favor of the BLS first response application for Pleasantdale Fire Department, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, the motion, and any abstentions? All right, the motion carries, thank you very much. And I think there's one more CON do you want to make everyone aware of it?
The only other thing in front of the committee is a Town of Day requesting to convert their municipal operating certificate to permanent. However, the application is not complete and is not ready for any action yet.
All right, thank you, Jim. And we always appreciate the work of the Sea Line Committee. Okay. The report of the committees, we'll start with the executive director's report. It is in writing for everybody. Tim did have to step out, but he wanted to remind everybody first that the banquet is October 16th. It's pretty close to sold out, but if you're interested in attending, please let the folks here know. And thank you to Saratoga Care for hosting. It seems like we've got the best crowd we've had in a long time coming for this year's banquet. Maybe it's because Emery's getting recognized.
That's
correct. Tim also spoke with us about the internship agreement that's been reached with the Albany College of Pharmacy, and that those students will be getting internships here with Remo, and that's a great partnership. The anthropometry study for ambulance design, we are one of 8 sites in the country that will be working on that, and there's a handout on that, even though Tim mentioned today that the CDC may or may not be able to proceed with that if the federal government shutdown occurs on schedule tonight, and so that may slow things down. And also to just highlight the work of the 2013 training report. Rich prepared this in his Remo role, working with the staff here. We had 294 course graduates for our core courses, and many, many other people in other courses. Course revenue is up, course participation is up, and also the contribution margin that training has to Remo is up. If you look at the last page, in 2012, Remo cleared $62,000 on training, and in 2013, we cleared almost $79,000 on training. Substantial increase on training. So I think we should congratulate the staff of Remo, as well as all the folks that work with them, on another excellent training year in this new facility. So Rich is here, so Rich, thank you. I know, Tim and Chris and everybody else that works with you. And did I leave anything out from the executive director's report from members of the executive committee? Anyone else have anything to add? All right. Treasurer's report, Rich.
Sure. The balance sheet is still in good shape. I won't waste your time going over it. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. We do have one bill for approval this month. It's actually on the agenda, at the bottom of the agenda, rather than on the balance sheet or the financial report. It's a request for $3,140.59 for replacement CPR equipment. Certainly something they could use, and we have here a lot of it's old and very well used. So I certainly support it, and that comes to you as a second motion from the executive board.
Is there any discussion on the purchase of the CPR mannequins? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? All right, great, thank you. We'll move that forward.
You also have in your packet the proposed budget for the fiscal year, which begins tomorrow. Today, Remo's fiscal year runs 10/1 through 9/30, so today, ironically, is the last day of our fiscal year. Tim prepared this. I've had a chance to review it with him. I know Steve has looked at it. Steve Rinaldi, I believe, has looked at it as well. It's, I think, well done. It's fairly simple, straightforward budget. This organization's always is. Tim is proposing a 2% increase for all staff positions and wages. Other than that, it's fairly flat from last year, and it comes to you again as a second motion from the executive board, unless you have questions on it.
I'd like to, well, Tim's not here, but for the record, commend Tim on building a very good budget. There are very few places where expenses are changing dramatically. Tim noted that web expenses are going down because we did a large build out on the website last year, and that's not necessary, but it's balanced, and it is very close in spending to what it did the year before. Any questions for Rich on the budget? Any questions in general on the budget or comments? All right, then I guess with the seconded motion, all those in favor of passing the Remo budget for the 2013-14 fiscal year, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Any abstentions? All right, well, that's good. We've got a budget and for next year, just in time.
There's no budget in our packet.
Yes, there is.
Okay.
I have a copy, Bruce, if you like one.
Oh, it's in our packet.
Okay. How come we, I was, you held the vote, and I'm sitting here looking for a copy of the budget.
He's got it.
Wow.
Okay.
Um, Okay.
Well, if you need to reopen it because you have any comments, I'm sure
Well,
we'd all be
it's a little
glad to.
late now,
We'd
but,
all
you
be,
know.
well, no, seriously, if you have any questions, I'm sure Rich would be glad to entertain them now. And if they were material to the approval, I'm sure the group would be willing to reconsider.
Mute issue at this point, I guess.
Okay. All right. Rich, anything else on the treasurer's report?
No, not at all.
On the GPO report, since we last met, there've been 4 months of GPO business, June, July, August, September. We did about $21,000 in business, which is an average of $5,000 a month. That's a rebound from our beginning of the year when business was not so good. So we continue to get revenue from the GPO program. 1% of proceeds comes to us. And there's a meeting coming up with the ARAMS region for discussion about our GPO business being expanded to their EMS agencies as well, which would give us a chance to earn more as well as deliver savings to those agencies.
Does the 1% cover our cost of evaluating the monies coming in and the time spent on that?
We have no cost.
Sure we do. We have man-hours evaluating, making deposits. Absolutely we do.
We receive a check once or twice a year, and it gets deposited in the bank by our treasurer. It's covered by the salary that we pay the treasurer, as we don't pay him per unit. We have
Nobody checks it,
actually.
Nobody goes through and verifies that that's where the accounts, we don't actually.
I do, but I'm not getting paid. You raise a legitimate question. We have raised the question of whether the GPO program provides sufficient revenue for us to put substantial resources into it. And I think, Rich, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but we've judged that since we put very little effort into it, and it continues to produce revenue, we should continue doing it. If it were to take substantial amounts of our time to do it, then we would look at whether or not the time value that's spent on it is of any value, outweighs the value. But essentially, you've seen all the work right in front of you was that it goes into it every month, is the report that we produce for you. We receive a detailed report from the vendor that shows us what they've sold. We review it, and they send us a check.
As long as we're not expending a lot of money, because the revenue from this is minuscule, so.
Right, that's right. The promise of future revenue is still there. The revenue today is not substantial. And that's because people around there are a few people around the table that buy religiously, and there are a few people around the table who get better pricing elsewhere because they could buy in very, very large volume. And there are a few people around the table who probably just don't really look at it. So, that the advertisement for this is for the smaller and medium-sized agencies. You can save a lot of money because this GPO delivers in bulk certain items that EMS agencies and hospitals use frequently. So my agency saves a bundle. We can't buy everything through this because there's certain things they can't deliver prices on. But software, for example, they buy 4x4s, 5x9s, and roller gauze by the truckload because they deliver it to half a dozen hospitals in the Capital District. So the price is 1/3 to 1/4 of what I would pay, even with getting good prices from standard vendors. I know there's some larger agencies that don't, but take a look at it if you can. All right, we have no report tonight from the medical director, medical advisory committee, or academic committee. Unless anybody would like to, Dr. Daly's not here. Does anyone have any reports from those committees? I tried to put the doctor on the spot earlier, and he said that he didn't have anything. All right. Rich, New York State EMS Council.
We meet Wednesday and Thursday of this week, stay tuned. We still exist, I guess. That's the good news.
We still exist, and it is likely we will continue to exist. I guess a little preview. Over the summer, the governor's office held a series of 4 stakeholder meetings with the EMS, the groups involved in the EMS committee, many of whom opposed the Article 30 changes last year and the year before. The direction of that conversation has been a more moderate place, where at one point in time there was a discussion of taking the State EMS Council, the State Medical Advisory Committee, and all the other committees and basically rolling them into one. I think at this point, the governor's office has backed off and said, well, we will have a state EMS council and we'll have a state medical advisory committee, and maybe some of the other smaller committees may be folded in. In addition, they're talking about there being 10 regions in the state as opposed to the current 17, is it 17 or 18? 18. And the last year's proposal was 6. And so they heard the discussions about, especially from downstate, where Nassau, Suffolk, New York City, and Westchester wish to maintain their autonomy. I talk about the Great Wall of Nassau, Suffolk that all the time. That does not allow paramedics on one side of that wall to practice the same as on the other side. However, when I drive by, I still haven't found that wall. But that means there'll probably be 6 regions in upstate New York if this happens. And so that's 12 will go to 6, which means you'll see some mergers and consolidations. And, one of the questions that always has been raised, though, if we merge with someone else, where the heck are the meetings going to be? Because that means, we already have people that travel pretty far to come to our meetings. So that's to be worked through. It probably will not be in the New York State budget. The governor has received the message from the legislature not to put this in the budget, but it's very possible that'll be the governor's program bill or a legislative bill from the chairman of the 2 health committees who've been participating in these discussions this year. But it's much more palatable as far as the existence of regional councils and the existence of the state councils. What still is quite controversial is the CON provisions to many people, but we'll hear more about that some other time. Okay, Nurses Committee, Anne Marie.
We met last week, and St. Peter's reported that they are now manually faxing all of the face sheets that they said they were never really able to get the autofax up and running. They're doing that within 24 hours. They're doing it the next morning, and she said they have their secretaries doing that.
Anne Marie, I thank you to the Nurses Committee for pursuing that project for a long time. I think it makes a big difference to EMS agencies and gets us out of the hair of the staff at St. Peter's much quicker. All right.
Pixis Supplies, we talked about, Art Brielt had been on his mission about the supplies and the one-for-one exchange. So the report was that Albany Med was doing much better, but now St. Peter's is finding that they are kind of losing supplies, and that she's feeling that they are probably taking what they're not getting from Albany Med from St. Peter's. So she's watching that rather closely because she said their inventory is way down. That was her report. And then participation has been down, so I'm going to reach out, Columbia, St. Mary's, Samaritan, Ellis, and the VA, they have not really come to any meetings in about a year. So I'm going to reach out to all the directors of each one of the facilities, the nursing directors of the EDs, just to see. I think there's been some turnover in some of the management, so that may have had, even though they're all on the distribution list. So I'm going to reach out. I'm going to make a phone call to each one of them and let them know what we do, and if they themselves can't make it, if they could just at least send a representative. So hopefully we'll get better participation. So it's usually the same one. It's usually Saratoga and St. Peter's and Albany Med.
Thanks, Anne Marie. Is there any room on the committee for a RN EMT provider, an RM that volunteers in one of the, or works at one of the agencies in a part-time capacity? Because I know, I know probably some of us that are volunteer agencies have RNs that still volunteer, and I bet some of us that are professionally paid agencies also have RNs that playing in EMT role or paramedic role. That might be a nice addition to the committee.
Would be a good liaison, and
Yeah.
that'd be great. So anyone just contact me.
Okay, thank you. PJ is not here, so we have nothing from the MCI committee. Membership committee, in the executive committee, we discussed that Jim Reagan does not remember becoming the chair of that committee, and that's a typo. And Lynn Kane has accepted being the chair of the membership committee, but probably has no report since she just accepted it today.
I'll have a report next month.
I'll work hard.
Okay. Jim is, however, is the chair of the nominating committee, and so this is the time of year where his committee will begin working on officers for the region for the 2014 year.
It's time to start thinking about your interest in running for any of the offices. We'll be polling you at some time down the road.
Sooner rather than later.
All right, we've got no report from the QI committee, and Dean's not here tonight. Awards committee, Ben?
We look forward to seeing everyone at the dinner. I understand we only have a few seats left available, so it sounds like we're gonna have quite a party. And then afterwards, we will start up again, trying to get our providers the recognition they deserve.
All right, county reports, Albany County,
Nothing to report.
Columbia County,
Yeah,
Green?
Green, you already had in the minutes here our EMT basic and refresher that started already. And what's new is we set up a bridge EMT B to the new EMT, October 7 and 8, from 6 p.m. to 11 p.m. at Thunder Mountain. That's all.
Thank you. Rensselaer,
No report.
Saratoga,
Nothing to report.
and Schenectady?
No report.
No report, okay. I believe everything that is already listed under the new business tab has already been covered. And everything listed under old business has already been covered. So are there any items for the floor for tonight's meeting? Yes,
I'm going to adjourn.
I guess then, all in favor of adjourning? All right, thanks for coming, everyone. Have a good night.